In today's video, I'm going to tell you about quieting the mind, and I'm going to explain to you why quieting the mind is not through deliberate action, but actually through indifference to thoughts, observation of thoughts, and patience. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Sean, and I talk about topics in spirituality and meditation. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about quieting the mind. If you like this video, please give it a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more. So I met someone, I was standing at the side of the road just enjoying the sun, and this guy came up to me and started talking to me about some challenges that he was facing in his life. And one of the things that he mentioned was thoughts that he faced challenge with, and these thoughts appeared to be an annoyance to him. And it made me think about many challenges that I've heard people in my life talk about, including some of my clients, which relates to quieting the mind. And many people have this misconception that quieting the mind involves an active effort. So they think that when they meditate, that they're doing something wrong, because what they find is that they often fail to control and suppress the thoughts. And that speaks to a broader misunderstanding about meditation and about quieting the mind. People always have this misunderstanding that quieting the mind involves suppressing and controlling the thoughts. But it takes a bit of insight and knowledge, which I hope you're getting from this video, that quieting the mind actually involves a different technique. And I'm going to tell you more about this technique. So, the first thing to keep in mind is that we often have the illusion of control when it comes to our minds. So, the illusion of control means that if you listen to the inner monologue, which is the voice in your head that sounds like you might have this misunderstanding that that is what you are. But as you continue to practice observation of your internal state, which you could either do this in a contemplative way through your daily living, or you could do this through a deliberate and intentional setting called meditation. So, as you continue to observe your inner states, including your mind, you see that you can often experience like hundreds or thousands of thoughts a day. So, trying to attach to each one or trying to control each one can be exhausting. And so, this leads to a specific technique, which I just mentioned, which is about observation. It is more fruitful in one's goal to quiet the mind to actually just observe the thoughts. Remember, you cannot speak your thoughts and listen to your thoughts at the same time. So, what I'm getting you to think about is that voice in your head, that voice in your awareness actually, that sounds like you, it cannot be a voice, because a voice is a vocal emission, a voice is a auditory emission, a voice is a sound. Because it's in your mind, it's actually a thought. So your inner monologue is not a voice, it's a thought that sounds like you. And because it's a thought that sounds like you that you can also hear, you cannot be both at the same time. And so, one of the insights that come from meditation is that you're actually the listener of that thought. You're not the speaker of the thought. The mind often narrates due to its own automatic action, and you, the listener, can hear that. You also have the opportunity to speak it at some points, but more often than not, entirely actually, you're actually the listener. So, one of the things to remember about quieting the mind is that observing your thoughts, whether you do it in your daily life with your eyes open or when you do it during your meditation practice, that is one important step to follow on the path to quieting the mind. The second thing to keep in mind about quieting the mind is the power of observation. So, as you continue to observe the thoughts in your mind, you will see that they are like a fountain and they continue to spray hundreds and thousands of thoughts per day. And as you continue to observe those thoughts, you will realize that they are happening without your willingness and without your control. Essentially, the mind is meant to be a tool for interaction in physical reality, and those thoughts are helpful in some ways but not helpful in others. And what we find with thoughts is that most thoughts are not helpful at all. So, as you continue to observe your thoughts, you start to create a distance between you that is hearing and watching those thoughts and the thoughts themselves. And as you continue to create that distance, what you'll see is that the thoughts reduce in intensity and they reduce in frequency. It takes a lot of time, effort, and action to actually eliminate thoughts entirely, but that's not something that you have to concern yourself with in your journey. As a beginner, what is more important to consider is that can I start to create that distance between me and my thoughts? And you create that distance through the power of observation. Remember, one important thing about the power of observation is that you should not be judging any of the thoughts. You should not be labeling them good or bad. Thoughts are entirely neutral. How we think about them affects how they influence us. And so don't label those thoughts good or bad. Don't judge them, just observe them. And this leads to the third thing to keep in mind when attempting to quiet and still the mind, which is about cultivating indifference. So, when we look at our thoughts, one important thing to pay attention to is that essentially no thought is good or bad. And that allows us to practice something called indifference. Indifference means you ignore all of the thoughts, you ignore the good thoughts and you ignore the bad thoughts. And the benefit of doing this is all to quiet and still the mind. Attaching to one type of thoughts might be desirable in a sense, but realize that it's a long thread towards actually being attached to all the thoughts. And that's why, as much as you hear those thoughts, as much as you observe those thoughts, as much as you see those thoughts, you should never actually follow the thoughts, because following the thoughts can lead one away from the present moment and into an entire fantasy world where you find that maybe minutes or hours of your time has gone, and that you've lost that time being involved in following specific thoughts. So practice indifference to all thoughts. Merely observe the thoughts without any judgment and just ignore them. Just ignore them, just watch them. Watch them as you would watch a moving image on a screen. I like to use an example like a person standing at the side of the road watching traffic. At no point does a person go into any of the cars. Similarly, when you watch your thoughts, you watch them flow, essentially come and go, because you might have hundreds and thousands of thoughts a day. It's not possible. It's exhausting to actually try to follow each one, to try to decide which one is good and bad, which one is helpful and not. And so when you practice observation, when you practice indifference, recognize that just watching the thoughts come and go gives you an idea of how the mind works, and that you start to see the mind more as a fountain offering more and more thoughts rather than what you are. So cultivating indifference is a very important step on quieting and stilling the mind. And this leads to the fourth tip, which is about patience. So it's very important to have patience when it comes to the mind, because remember, the mind is a sharp and highly specialized tool, and it's been refined through hundreds and thousands of years of evolution and genetic adaptivity to physical reality. And so that is why it is so challenging to get the mind to silence and still, because the mind is involved in engaging with sensory stimuli. The mind is involved not only in thoughts, but in sights and sounds and feels and all of these things. So getting the mind to still, getting the mind to silence requires the practice of the three things that I've mentioned previously, but also the fourth thing, which is patience. And patience is very important, because if you really truly are taking this seriously, if you really truly value your mind to the extent that your clarity is as important to you as you say it is, then you do practice the observation, you do practice the indifference, and you do start to see yourself more as a watcher, as a listener, rather than the speaker in the mind. And as you do that, it does need your patience, and you cannot expect to see results like in 24 hours or in months. Sometimes results are more fruitful when you look back on years. When you look back on years, then you see that, wait, I have a better grasp of my mind now than I did a year ago. I have better mental clarity now than I did a year ago. I have better observation of my mind now than I did a year ago. Maybe a year ago, I would have been involved in thoughts for an entire hour, not knowing that I was away from the present moment. But now, if I'm away from the present moment, I know that I'm away from the present moment and I bring myself back immediately because it is not fruitful for me to be away, involving myself in following thoughts that are merely fantastical or reflections of the past or imaginings of the future or any other thing that is pulling me away from where I am right now. So the patience is something that you must have, and the patience is very important to practice because this is a lifelong journey, and quieting and stilling the mind is not something that you can snap your fingers and have it done overnight. It does require the effort, the action, and the work, and it requires also the consistency to keep coming back at it over and over and over. So in essence, one of the most greatest challenges that we face as humans is quieting and stilling the mind, and there's an entire practice for that, which is meditation, which involves the observation of one's thoughts, the observation of one's inner state, and to reflect and to summarize again. Remember, we only have the illusion of control. We only believe falsely that we are the speaker in the mind, when in fact that's not a voice, it's actually a thought. Secondly, we can practice the power of observation. We do not need to follow any thoughts or believe that the thoughts are us. We merely need to see them, and we need to see more so the principle of the mind, meaning how is the mind doing this thing more so than what it's doing, and that is cultivated through observation. And then the third thing to practice is indifference. Remember, it's merely a rabbit hole to follow good thoughts only, and it's a rabbit hole also to avoid bad thoughts. Essentially, be indifferent to all thoughts and prioritize the clarity, the peace of mind that comes from a mind that's clear. And from that clarity also comes power to make decisions in the present moment. So, clarity of mind is superior to all thoughts. Keep that in your awareness. And the fourth thing to keep in mind is the importance of patience. It's very important to practice patience, to practice self compassion, and to know that do not rush any results, do not have expectations of timing, and merely just master the process of observing your mind, and do so whether during your meditation or during your contemplative practice. As you're going about your daily life or as you're sitting still in meditation, practice the observation of all thoughts, the indifference to those thoughts, letting go from the illusion of control, letting go from believing that you are a mind. Rather, you are the watcher of the thoughts, you are the watcher of the internal state and the external state, and you're only going to become aware of that. And finally, quiet and still your mind as you practice the four techniques and skills that I've mentioned throughout this video. So if you'd like to get started with your meditation journey, then click below, and you can also download my free meditation course. And this is a very similar meditation course where I practice these aspects that I've spoken about throughout this video. And I also use this meditation technique to calm any anxious thoughts, release any tensions, and to relieve my stresses. So I do this on a daily basis. And if you want to get started with your meditation journey and also do this for yourself, then click below and download my free meditation course now. And if you'd like to work with me, then click below. There's a link to work with me in my one on one personal mentorship and coaching. You can also click below and learn more about that. So I want to thank you again for watching this video, and look out for my next video where I'll teach you more tools, tips, and techniques to help you on your meditation and spirituality journey. If you like more of this video, give it a like, leave a comment down below letting me know if anything in this video resonated with you. And did you agree with anything? Do you disagree? Click below and let me know. I want to wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more and take care. Bye, everyone.